Hello, good evening and welcome. You've just entered the arena. I'm Michael Coren and thank you so very much for joining me. Now, it was a moving sight. Newsreaders on the state broadcaster were deeply emotional as they announced that the great leader, the supreme champion of workers' rights and the oppressed, had finally succumbed to the strains and pressure of work. They couldn't really contain their sorrow and their sadness, could they? He'd been a selfless conduit for goodness and virtue, they said, and the enormous demands of such a noble and saintly vocation had finally exhausted him. Hours and hours were devoted to his legacy on television and radio, and the newspapers full of tributes and accolades. On the streets, it was even worse, even more emotional. Legions of workers, soldiers, peasants, intellectuals, hair salon operatives, dental hygienists, support staff, leaders of the transgendered and bicurious community, and union leaders, that they openly wept, screaming in anguish as they remembered someone they simply but beautifully described as the leader. The funeral was more magnificent and expensive than we could have imagined. Thousands of people marched, speeches were made, statements delivered about progress, equality, and revolution. Of course, most of the people present had not met the man, nor even spoken to him, and actually knew little about him. This didn't matter. There was also, well, scandal attached to his personal life, and some of it had been revealed just recently by the media, but this was soon covered up and dismissed, and we were rightly told not to listen to the enemies of peace and enlightenment and their cruel truths. It was also demonstrated that the media were well aware of his illness, but disguised this from the people so as to aid the leader in his campaigns and his work. But surely it was all worth it. And now he hands power over to his son, and his wife, of course. The son is a weak man without the strength of his father, and he broke down at his father's funeral. It was sad, but also uplifting and reassuring to know that he continues his father's legacy in politics and will lead the revolution into the next generation. This is surely less about nepotism than about continuity, and for the benefit of the party, the country, and, well, all humanity. In the hours following the leader's death, there was almost universal praise, and during and after the state funeral, grand beyond belief, hardly a negative word was heard about him. Those few reactionary running dogs of imperialism and fascism who did claim that the emperor had no clothes were screamed at immediately. Well, thank goodness for that. His following had been strong in the north, and it was there that he was most fondly remembered. Elsewhere in the world, it has to be admitted that most people couldn't even say his name, didn't know it, and hardly knew who he was. No matter, the revolution goes on. Rest in peace, the leader. Rest in peace, Jack Layton. Rest in peace. Oh, and apparently someone died in North Korea as well, but let's deal with that later in the week.